Jasmine Washington stared in disbelief as the flight attendant sided with the white man occupying her first-class seat. "I'll need to see your boarding pass again, miss." 20 minutes later, the entire plane watched in stunned silence as federal agents boarded, heading straight for the man who'd stolen her seat. Before we dive into this incredible story, I'd love to know where you're watching from. Drop your location in the comments below and hit that like and subscribe button. Trust me, you'll want to see how this shocking act of discrimination turned into one of the most unexpected airline incidents of the year. The Hartsfield-Jackson Atlanta International Airport buzzed with its usual frantic energy as Jasmine Washington made her way to Gate A23. At 24, she was already a force in the tech world, founder and CEO of Washington Security Solutions, a cutting-edge AI security company valued at $3.5 billion. Despite her astronomical success, Jasmine preferred to keep a low profile, especially when traveling. Today was no different. Dressed in dark jeans, white sneakers, and an oversized navy hoodie with her company's discreet logo, Jasmine looked more like a college student than one of the youngest billionaires in America. Her curly hair was pulled back in a simple ponytail, and she wore minimal makeup. The understated look was deliberate. Jasmine had learned early in her career that being a young black woman in tech meant constant scrutiny. As she approached the premium boarding lane, the gate agent looked up with a practiced smile that quickly faltered. "I think you might be in the wrong line," the agent said, glancing at the economy passengers waiting in the longer queue. "I'm in first class," Jasmine replied calmly, sliding her boarding pass across the counter. The agent's eyebrows rose slightly as she examined the ticket, then checked it again. "Can I see some ID as well, please?" Jasmine had been through this routine countless times. She handed over her driver's license without comment, observing how the agent's eyes widened slightly at the name. "Oh, I see. Thank you, Ms. Washington," the agent stammered, suddenly respectful. "Have a pleasant flight." Jasmine nodded and proceeded down the jetway, mentally filing away another microaggression to discuss at her company's next diversity training session. Washington Security Solutions had grown from her dorm room startup to a cybersecurity powerhouse in just 5 years, but some things hadn't changed, like how people perceived her. The first-class cabin was half full when Jasmine boarded. She moved toward her window seat in row 3, but stopped short when she saw it was already occupied. A white man in his late 50s with silver hair and an expensive suit was comfortably settled there, typing on a laptop. "Excuse me," Jasmine said. "I believe you're in my seat." The man barely glanced up. "No, I don't think so." 3A, Jasmine pointed to the seat number, then showed her boarding pass. "This is definitely my assigned seat." Now the man looked at her fully, his eyes sweeping dismissively over her casual attire before returning to his screen. "There must be some mistake. I always book window seats. Could I see your boarding pass, sir?" Jasmine asked, maintaining her composure. With an exaggerated sigh, the man produced his boarding pass. It clearly showed seat 3C, the aisle seat across from him. "You see? You're in 3C, Jasmine pointed out. "That's across the aisle." The man frowned, examining the boarding pass as if seeing it for the first time. "That can't be right. There's been a mistake." By now, other passengers were boarding, creating a bottleneck in the aisle. Jasmine was conscious of the eyes on her, the whispers starting. "Sir, if you could please move to your assigned seat, I'd appreciate it," she said, her voice firm but polite. "Is there a problem here?" A flight attendant approached, Heather Reynolds according to her name tag, a white woman in her early 40s with a tight smile. "Yes," Jasmine explained. "This gentleman is sitting in my assigned seat." Without asking to see Jasmine's boarding pass, Heather turned to the man. "Sir, may I see your boarding pass?" He handed it over, adding smoothly, "There seems to be a misunderstanding." Heather examined his pass, then looked at Jasmine with skepticism. "And your boarding pass, miss?" Jasmine showed her ticket. Heather compared the two, and despite the clear evidence, her expression remained doubtful. Well, Heather said, lowering her voice, perhaps you wouldn't mind taking the aisle seat for this flight. It would avoid causing a scene and delaying our departure. Jasmine blinked, momentarily stunned. Several passengers had their phones out now, recording the interaction. The man smirked slightly. I'm sure we can resolve this amicably. In that moment, Jasmine made a quick calculation. She could assert her rights and create a bigger issue, potentially getting removed from the flight, or she could strategically retreat and handle this another way. As a business leader, she'd faced similar choices countless times. Fine, she said coolly. I'll take 3C. Wonderful, Heather beamed, relieved to avoid confrontation. Thank you for being so understanding. As Jasmine settled into the aisle seat, she pulled out her phone and sent a text to Xavier Thompson, her chief of security. Interesting situation on flight DL-1426 to San Francisco Airport. Man refused to vacate my assigned seat. Flight attendant sided with him despite clear evidence. Might be nothing, but worth noting given the Anderson contract meetings tomorrow. She slipped her phone into airplane mode, keenly aware of the man's smug satisfaction radiating from across the aisle. Little did he know that Jasmine Washington had built her empire by anticipating problems before they became crises. If there was one thing she'd learned from growing up in Oakland and fighting her way through MIT and Silicon Valley, it was how to turn discrimination into opportunity. What she couldn't have anticipated was how quickly this particular opportunity would present itself. As the remaining passengers filed onto the plane, Jasmine observed her surroundings with the careful attention to detail that had made her security algorithms revolutionary. The man who had taken her seat, whose name badge partially visible inside his open briefcase read, Bradley Thornton, was organizing his workspace with practiced efficiency. His Italian leather shoes, Rolex watch, and custom suit screamed old money and entitlement. Jasmine had encountered countless Bradley Thorntons throughout her career. They were the venture capitalists who'd assumed she was the secretary when she came to pitch, the executives who'd talked over her in meetings, the professors who'd questioned whether she'd really written her own code. Each encounter had strengthened her resolve and sharpened her skills. The memory of her first major investor meeting flashed through her mind. 21 years old, fresh out of MIT, standing before 5 white men in a Silicon Valley conference room. So who's the actual technical founder? One had asked, looking past her to the white male intern she'd brought to take notes. That company had passed on investing. 3 years later, they tried to acquire her startup for $100 million. She declined. Excuse me, is this seat taken? Jasmine looked up to see a South Asian woman in her mid-30s gesturing to the empty middle seat beside her. No, please, Jasmine smiled, standing to let the woman in. Thanks. I'm Maya, the woman said as she settled in. Overnight flight to San Francisco, not ideal, but last-minute medical conference. Jasmine. And I know what you mean. Not a fan of red ice myself. As they exchanged pleasantries, Jasmine noticed Maya's quick, observant eyes taking in the situation, glancing between Jasmine and Bradley, clearly putting together what had happened. Maya gave Jasmine a subtle, sympathetic look that communicated volumes. Another woman who understood. Across the aisle, Bradley Thornton pulled out his phone and made a call before the doors closed. Richard? Bradley here, he said loudly, not bothering to lower his voice. Yes, everything's on track for tomorrow. The Anderson acquisition looks solid. We'll finalize the details after my meeting with the board. He paused, listening. No complications. Just the usual, having to teach people their place in the world. At this, he cast a pointed glance at Jasmine. Maya raised her eyebrows, looking between Bradley and Jasmine. Charming seatmate you've got there, she whispered. Jasmine shrugged, unfazed. Nothing I haven't heard before. The captain's voice came over the intercom, announcing a slight delay before takeoff due to air traffic control. Collective groans rippled through the cabin. As they waited, Jasmine noticed unusual activity at the front of the plane. The lead flight attendant was engaged in an intense whispered conversation with another crew member, both occasionally glancing toward first class with concerned expressions. Heather, the flight attendant who had handled the seating dispute, passed by their row, checking her phone with growing agitation. Her customer service smile had vanished, replaced by a tense frown. Bradley began checking his watch repeatedly, his earlier confidence giving way to visible anxiety. He closed his laptop, then opened it again, then shut it once more, unable to focus. "Ladies and gentlemen," the captain's voice returned, sounding carefully neutral, "we're experiencing a slight technical issue that needs to be addressed before takeoff. We appreciate your patience and will update you as soon as possible." Jasmine's phone vibrated with a text. Despite airplane mode, her custom-designed secure messaging system could still receive priority communications from her security team. The message from Xavier read simply, "Situation handled. Watch what happens next." A young black flight attendant Jasmine hadn't seen before approached her row with a discreet smile. His name tag read, Marcus Johnson. "Ms. Washington," he said quietly, "I wanted to offer you a complimentary glass of champagne. I apologize for any inconvenience you've experienced today." His emphasis on her name and the meaningful look he gave her suggested he knew exactly who she was. Jasmine accepted the champagne with a grateful nod. "Thank you, Marcus. I appreciate that." As Marcus moved away, a Chinese-American man across the aisle, not Bradley, but in the window seat of row 4, caught Jasmine's eye. "Excuse me," he said, leaning forward slightly. "I couldn't help overhearing earlier. Are you Jasmine Washington of Washington Security Solutions?" "I am," she acknowledged cautiously. "Richard Chen," he introduced himself with a warm smile. "I write for Tech Innovations Weekly. I've followed your company's growth for years. Your quantum encryption breakthrough last month was remarkable." Before Jasmine could respond, a commotion at the front of the plane drew everyone's attention. The cabin fell silent as 2 TSA agents and what appeared to be federal officers in plain clothes boarded the aircraft. Bradley Thornton's face went pale. The sudden appearance of federal officers sent an electric current of tension through the cabin. Passengers craned their necks and whispered urgent speculations to one another. "Is it a terrorist threat? Maybe someone on the no-fly list? I heard there was a mechanical issue." Jasmine remained perfectly still, her expression neutral even as her mind raced through possible scenarios. Years of high-stakes business negotiations had taught her the value of a poker face. Beside her, Maya Patel straightened in her seat, her doctor's instincts clearly on alert. The federal agents moved purposefully down the aisle, led by a tall black man in a dark suit who scanned each row with practiced efficiency. When they reached row 3, they stopped. Bradley Thornton, the lead agent, addressed the man in Jasmine's window seat. Bradley looked up, an unconvincing expression of confusion on his face. "Yes. What's this about?" "Sir, we need you to come with us," the agent stated firmly. "There must be some mistake," Bradley protested, his voice rising slightly. "I'm an executive with First Capital Investments. I have an important meeting in San Francisco tomorrow." "Sir, please gather your belongings and come with us," the agent repeated. "We can discuss this off the aircraft." Bradley's confusion transformed into indignation. "This is outrageous. Do you know who I am? I demand to speak to your supervisor." The lead agent remained impassive. "Sir, you can either walk off this plane voluntarily, or we can escort you off in restraints. Your choice." The cabin had gone completely silent. Dozens of phones were recording the confrontation now, capturing Bradley's transformation from entitled businessman to panicked suspect. "On what grounds?" Bradley demanded, although he had begun gathering his things. The agent leaned closer, speaking in a lower voice that Jasmine could still hear clearly. "Bradley Thornton reported his passport stolen yesterday in Chicago. Yet somehow, you're traveling under his name today. Care to explain that?" Bradley's face drained of color, but his shock quickly morphed into desperation. With unexpected swiftness, he lunged across the aisle toward Jasmine. You set me up, he snarled, his hand reaching toward her. Before he could touch her, two agents grabbed him, pinning his arms behind his back. The lead agent stepped between Bradley and Jasmine. Alexander Kozlov, the agent addressed him by a completely different name. You're under arrest for identity theft, traveling under false documentation, and attempting to evade the terrorist watch list. A collective gasp went through the cabin. Jasmine maintained her composure, though her mind was connecting dots with lightning speed. As the agents searched Bradley, or rather, Alexander, they discovered a specialized flash drive concealed in his suit jacket. Jasmine recognized the technology immediately. It was a prototype data extraction device manufactured by Nexus Technologies, her company's chief competitor. The device was designed to wirelessly hack into laptops and smartphones within a 3-foot radius, extracting data without leaving a trace. That's not mine. Alexander protested as the agent bagged the device as evidence. She planted it on me. He jerked his head toward Jasmine again. This woman set me up. The lead agent ignored his accusations and continued the search, uncovering a second phone and what appeared to be a signal jammer. As Alexander was being handcuffed, he fixed his gaze on Jasmine with pure hatred. You think you're so clever, don't you? You have no idea what's coming. Jasmine finally spoke, her voice calm and clear. Actually, I think I do. In that moment, several realizations crystallized in her mind. This hadn't been a random act of racism or entitlement. Alexander had specifically targeted her seat, the window seat with closest proximity to the bulk of first class. The perfect position to deploy the extraction device against multiple high-value targets during a 6-hour flight. The seat theft wasn't opportunistic, it was strategic. And the flight attendant's bias hadn't just been an inconvenience, it had been a vulnerability that Alexander had intentionally exploited. As Alexander was escorted off the plane, Jasmine caught Heather watching her, the flight attendant's face a mask of mortification as she realized her role in what could have been a major security breach. Jasmine's phone vibrated again with another message from Xavier, confirmed. This goes deeper than we thought. Sending team to airport now. The captain's voice came over the intercom, apologizing for the disruption and announcing that all passengers would need to deplane for additional security screening before they could continue their journey. As passengers gathered their belongings, many cast curious or admiring glances toward Jasmine. Richard Chen, the tech journalist, leaned across the aisle. Ms. Washington, he said quietly, I think there's a much bigger story here than a seat dispute. Would you be willing to give me an exclusive when this is all sorted out? Jasmine considered him for a moment, then nodded slightly. Perhaps. Let's talk after the screening. As she prepared to deplane, Jasmine reflected on the irony of the situation. All her life, she'd worked to overcome discrimination and bias. Today, someone had weaponized that same bias against her, and it had backfired spectacularly. The terminal gate area had been transformed into an impromptu investigation center. Passengers from Flight DL-1426 sat in clusters, some being interviewed by federal agents, others waiting impatiently for information about their delayed journey. News crews had already gathered outside the security perimeter, alerted by the viral videos spreading across social media. Jasmine sat in a private office that had been commandeered by the FBI, facing Agent Dominic Wilson, the tall black man who had led the arrest on the plane. His expression was professionally neutral, but there was a glint of recognition in his eyes. Ms. Washington, thank you for your cooperation, he began, opening a file. I understand this has been an unusual flight experience, to say the least. Jasmine smiled slightly. That's one way to put it. For the record, could you state your occupation? I'm the founder and CEO of Washington Security Solutions, Jasmine replied. We specialize in AI-driven cybersecurity systems, primarily for government and financial institutions. Agent Wilson nodded. And your company recently announced a breakthrough in quantum encryption, correct? Yes. We've developed an algorithm that theoretically cannot be broken, even by quantum computers. The official announcement was last month, but the technology has been in development for years. Would you say this makes you a high-value target for corporate espionage? Jasmine leaned forward. Agent Wilson, let's cut to the chase. The man you arrested, Alexander Kozlov, deliberately took my seat for strategic positioning. The device you found is a specialized data extractor that can penetrate most commercial security systems. My guess is he planned to steal intellectual property from multiple executives on this flight, myself included. Wilson's expression remained impassive, but he closed his file. Your security chief called us 20 minutes after you boarded. He was remarkably well informed. Xavier doesn't miss much, Jasmine acknowledged. We've developed protocols for situations like this. Unfortunately, we've had to use them more often than I'd like. The flight attendant, Heather Reynolds, has been detained for questioning, Wilson continued. At this point, we don't believe she was complicit, just biased, Jasmine finished for him. She saw a young black woman in casual clothes versus an older white man in an expensive suit, and made assumptions. It happens every day. Those assumptions nearly facilitated a major security breach, Wilson noted. Kozlov has known ties to several foreign intelligence agencies. We've been tracking him for months. A knock at the door interrupted them. A younger agent entered and whispered something to Wilson, who nodded gravely. Ms. Washington, your security team has arrived. They've been cleared to join us. He checked his watch. And the airline's CEO is apparently on his way from headquarters. You've caused quite a stir. Jasmine shook her head. I didn't cause anything. I just tried to sit in my assigned seat. As if on cue, the door opened again, and Xavier Thompson entered. At 38, Xavier was an imposing figure, 6'4", with broad shoulders and the disciplined bearing of his former Delta Force days. His dark suit was impeccably tailored, and his expression was all business as he nodded to Jasmine. Situation contained, he reported concisely. Our team is reviewing airport surveillance footage now. Media is running with an attempted hijacking narrative, which we're not correcting yet. What about the videos from the plane? Jasmine asked. Trending on every platform, Xavier confirmed. Hashtag seat theft and flying while black are both viral. Your PR team is monitoring but not engaging yet. Agent Wilson cleared his throat. Mr. Thompson, we appreciate your alertness in this matter, but the FBI will handle the investigation from here. Xavier's expression didn't change. Of course. We're simply securing Ms. Washington's interests. Speaking of which, he turned to Jasmine, the airport director and airline executives are falling over themselves to apologize. They're offering a private lounge and transportation. Before Jasmine could respond, her phone rang, a rare occurrence, as most people couldn't bypass her carefully managed communication channels. The caller ID showed Edward Reynolds, Sky Globe Airlines CEO. The media frenzy was already beginning. Outside this room, two competing narratives were forming, the discrimination against a black passenger, and the thwarted security threat. Both were true, but Jasmine knew which would dominate headlines if she didn't take control of the story. She glanced at Richard Chen's business card, which she'd accepted before deplaning. Perhaps an exclusive with a respected tech journalist was exactly what she needed. What do you think should happen to Heather, the flight attendant who showed clear bias? Comment number 1 if you think she should be fired immediately, or number 2 if you believe she deserves a second chance with proper training. Don't forget to hit that like button if you've ever witnessed or experienced discrimination while traveling, and subscribe to hear more stories about overcoming adversity in unexpected ways. I wonder, would you have handled this situation differently if you were in Jasmine's shoes? The story is about to take an even more surprising turn, as we discover this wasn't just about a stolen seat, it was part of something much bigger. The executive lounge at Hartsfield-Jackson Airport had been cleared of other passengers, transformed into a secure command center for Jasmine and her team. 3 large screens displayed different security feeds, airport surveillance footage, social media activity tracking, and a secure connection to Washington Security Solutions headquarters in Oakland. Jasmine stood before the monitors, her casual travel attire replaced by a sharp blazer brought by her team. She'd pulled her hair back into a tighter ponytail and applied a touch of lipstick, small changes that transformed her appearance from college student to CEO. Image management was second nature to her now, a necessary skill for a young black woman whose authority was constantly questioned. "Run it again," she instructed, watching as the security footage played back her boarding and the subsequent confrontation. Xavier Thompson stood beside her, along with 3 other members of her security team and Richard Chen, the tech journalist who'd been granted exclusive access to the unfolding story. "There," Xavier pointed to a figure in the background. "He boards 15 minutes after Kozlov, sits in 5B, first class. Watch his reaction when the agents board." On screen, a man in his 30s with light brown hair visibly tensed when the federal agents appeared, then quickly exited the plane during the evacuation, moving against the flow of passengers. Facial recognition flagged him as Michael Reeves, said Talia Santos, Jasmine's head of digital security. "Known associate of Kozlov. We've tracked him to a rental car facility, but he's gone dark since." "2 of them," Jasmine murmured. "This wasn't just opportunistic theft." "No," Xavier agreed. "This was a coordinated operation." Jasmine turned to her chief technology officer, Devin Williams, who had just arrived from Oakland. What would they have gotten if they'd succeeded? Devin, a brilliant programmer Jasmine had recruited from MIT 3 years ago, pulled up a security schematic on his tablet. The quantum encryption algorithm itself is segmented, no single device contains the complete code. But your laptop has access to our developmental servers. A sophisticated breach could have compromised components of the system. Enough to reverse engineer? Jasmine asked. Devin shook his head. Not entirely, but enough to potentially identify vulnerabilities. Richard Chen, who had been quietly taking notes, looked up. The government contract for your encryption system is being finalized next week, isn't it? Worth what, 10 billion? 12, Jasmine corrected. Plus implementation contracts that could triple that amount. The largest cybersecurity contract in history. Which makes you a very valuable target, Richard observed. Jasmine's phone chimed with a priority alert. The screen displayed footage from their headquarters security system, an attempted unauthorized access at the main server room. They're hitting us at both ends, Jasmine realized. The plane was just one vector. I've dispatched security, Xavier confirmed. Perimeter is secure. But this confirms our suspicion, it's a coordinated attack. The question is who's behind it, Talia added, typing rapidly on her laptop. Kozlov has worked for various state actors, but also private entities. Including, she paused, looking up at Jasmine. Nexus Technologies, Jasmine finished for her. Victor Hammond's company. Richard Chen whistled softly. Your chief competitor for the government contract. And a man who publicly stated at last year's Cyber SEC conference that, and I quote, security infrastructure is too important to be left in the hands of diversity hires and affirmative action recipients, Devin added, his voice tight with anger. Jasmine remembered that conference all too well. She'd been the keynote speaker, announcing Washington Security Solutions' breakthrough approach to neural network protection. Hammond had made his comments to a reporter afterward, clearly referring to her company's diverse leadership team. Can we prove the connection? She asked. Working on it, Talia responded. The extraction device is definitely Nexus Tech, prototype stage, not commercially available. A knock at the door interrupted them. An FBI agent entered, accompanied by Agent Wilson. Ms. Washington, we've received some information you should know about, Wilson said. The airline's internal investigation has revealed that Heather Reynolds, the flight attendant involved in your seating dispute, received a substantial deposit in her bank account 2 days ago. She claims it was a family inheritance, but we've traced it to a shell company associated with Nexus Technologies. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. She was paid to enable the seat theft, Jasmine said slowly. They anticipated I would be profiled and used that against me. We don't have proof she knew the larger plan, Wilson cautioned. But at minimum, she was bribed to favor certain passengers. Richard Chen was scribbling notes frantically. This is bigger than discrimination or corporate espionage. They weaponized racial bias as a security exploit. Not just against me, Jasmine realized. The government liaison for the encryption contract is Luis Ortiz. He's flying to Washington tomorrow. Asian Brewer, the banking executive, takes weekly flights to New York. She looked at her team. Are they targeting other minority executives involved in the project? Talia's fingers flew across her keyboard. Checking flight manifests against our project contacts, yes, there's a pattern. 3 security-cleared executives with access to different components of the quantum encryption project have had unusual flight incidents in the past month. They're using the same playbook, Xavier concluded. Exploiting bias to create security openings. Jasmine's phone rang again, this time, a secure line from the Pentagon. The caller ID showed Special Projects Division. This just got elevated, she told her team, accepting the call. Washington. The voice on the other end was clipped and urgent. Ms. Washington, this is General Marshall. We've been briefed on the situation. This is now classified as a matter of national security. Your company's encryption system has been designated as critical infrastructure. I understand, General, Jasmine replied. My team is already tracking connections to Nexus Technologies. We're deploying additional resources, the general continued. In the meantime, all your travel plans should be considered compromised. After ending the call, Jasmine turned to her team. The government's involved now. This goes beyond corporate espionage. Richard Chen had stopped writing. What will you do about the flight attendant? The video of your confrontation has 17 million views already. People are demanding the airline take action. Jasmine checked the social media feed on one of the monitors. The hashtags #JusticeForJasmine and #FlyingWhileBlack were trending nationwide. Commenters were calling for Heather Reynolds to be fired, for boycotts of the airline, for lawsuits. She thought about Heather, a woman who had made assumptions based on appearance, who had defaulted to respecting the white man over the black woman. A woman who had been paid to exploit her own biases. A woman who was now suspended, possibly facing criminal charges, and definitely facing public scorn. She was a tool, Jasmine said finally. An exploitable vulnerability, just like any security weakness. The real target is the people who weaponized her bias. Her phone lit up with a notification. Heather Reynolds was requesting to speak with her personally. Jasmine looked at the message for a long moment, then turned to Richard Chen. I think it's time to shift the narrative from discrimination to industrial espionage. Are you ready for that exclusive? The following morning dawned with Washington Security Solutions Oakland headquarters on high alert. Additional security personnel patrolled the sleek glass and steel building while Jasmine convened an emergency meeting in the Crisis Management Center, a secure room on the 32nd floor with sweeping views of San Francisco Bay. Another breach attempt at 3:17 a.m., reported Talia Santos, sliding a tablet across the conference table. More sophisticated than last night's. They targeted the quantum server specifically. Jasmine studied the security logs with a frown. Were they successful? No, Devin Williams answered, looking exhausted after working through the night. But they're getting closer. They're using techniques that suggest intimate knowledge of our security architecture. An inside source? Jasmine questioned, looking around the table at her core team. Xavier Thompson shook his head. We've run full background checks on everyone with access. Nothing suspicious yet. But, he paused, pulling up an image on the main screen. Facial recognition identified Victor Hammond leaving Nexus Technologies headquarters at midnight, hours after normal operations would have ceased. The screen showed the 62-year-old CEO of Nexus, Jasmine's chief competitor and vocal critic. Hammond's silver hair and patrician features were recognizable to anyone in the tech industry. He had built Nexus from a small government contractor to a cybersecurity giant over 30 years and had made no secret of his disdain for Jasmine's meteoric rise. "I still remember his comment at the Silicon Valley Leadership Summit," Devon said darkly. "Some of us built our companies through expertise and experience, not by checking diversity boxes and playing identity politics." "He said that to your face?" Richard Chen asked from his position at the side of the room, where he'd been permitted to observe under strict confidentiality agreements. "Right after I won the Friedman Innovation Award," Jasmine confirmed. "He refused to shake my hand at the ceremony." The door to the crisis room opened, and Jasmine's executive assistant entered with urgent news. "The FBI just arrested a Nexus Technologies engineer trying to access our satellite office in Palo Alto," she announced. "And there's a call for you on the secure line, Department of Justice, Cybersecurity Division." Jasmine took the call on speakerphone, allowing her team to listen. "Ms. Washington, this is Special Agent Diana Rollins," came a crisp female voice. "We need to brief you on some classified information. Are you in a secure location?" "Yes, with my security team and Richard Chen from Tech Innovations Weekly, who has signed our confidentiality agreements." "Very well," Agent Rollins continued. "We've uncovered evidence of a coordinated campaign targeting multiple minority executives in the tech sector, particularly those with government contracts. This goes beyond Nexus Technologies. We believe there's a consortium of companies working together to undermine diversity initiatives in the industry by compromising high-profile minority leaders." A stunned silence fell over the room. "They're using racial profiling as a weapon," Jasmine said, the realization sending a chill through her. "Exploiting societal biases to create security vulnerabilities." "Precisely," Agent Rollins confirmed. "Airport incidents, hotel security breaches, even ride-share mix-ups, all designed to place minority executives in compromising positions or create access to their secure devices." The flight attendant, Jasmine remembered. "Has she provided any useful information?" "Ms. Reynolds is cooperating fully," the agent replied. "She admits accepting what she was told was a customer service bonus to ensure VIP passengers were properly accommodated. She didn't realize she was being manipulated to target you specifically." After ending the call, Jasmine turned to Richard Chen. "This changes the story considerably." The journalist nodded, already revising his notes. "From individual discrimination to systematic targeting of minority executives. It's not just about stealing your seat, it's about exploiting societal bias as a security vulnerability. The media is still running with the discrimination angle," Talia noted, displaying the latest news coverage on a screen. The footage from the plane had become international news overnight, with Jasmine unwittingly transformed into a symbol of resistance against everyday racism. #IStandWithJasmine was trending globally. Celebrities were posting messages of support. The airline's stock had dropped 8% at market open. "We need to redirect this narrative," Jasmine decided. "The discrimination is real, but it's being weaponized in ways people don't yet understand." As if on cue, her phone lit up with a notification. Heather Reynolds had released a tearful video statement apologizing for her actions on the flight. "I let my unconscious biases influence my judgment," the flight attendant admitted, her voice breaking. "I failed to treat Ms. Washington with the respect she deserved, and I'm deeply sorry. I've begun unconscious bias training and am committed to doing better." The comments section below the video was divided, some praising her honesty, others dismissing it as damage control. "She's being used twice," Jasmine observed. "First as a tool for corporate espionage, now as a scapegoat for systemic issues." A priority alert interrupted her thoughts, an encrypted message from her secure government channel, multiple tech executives targeted. "Emergency Security Summit called in Washington, D.C. tomorrow. Your presence requested. Details to follow." Simultaneously, another alert flashed on her phone, an anonymous message that had somehow breached her personal security protocols: "Back off or the next flight won't land safely." Xavier was immediately at her side, examining the security breach. Direct threat. "We need to lock down your travel plans." "No," Jasmine countered, an idea forming. "We need to make my travel plans very public." She turned to Richard Chen. "It's time for that exclusive. But we're going to use it strategically." Hours later, Richard's article was published on Tech Innovations Weekly's website with the headline, "Beyond Discrimination: How Racial Bias Became a National Security Threat." The piece detailed Jasmine's experience, connecting it to the larger pattern of targeting minority executives. It mentioned her upcoming trip to Washington, D.C. for a classified security summit. Within minutes, the article was being shared across platforms, shifting the conversation from individual discrimination to coordinated targeting. Comments poured in from other minority executives reporting similar experiences. As Jasmine reviewed the social media response in her office, a new message arrived, not a threat this time, but a request to meet from an unexpected source. Maya Patel, the woman who had sat beside Jasmine on the flight, had sent a secure message: "Ms. Washington, what I didn't mention on the plane is that I'm not just a doctor. I'm also a Justice Department attorney specializing in discrimination cases. I witnessed everything firsthand and would like to help build a case against both the airline and the larger conspiracy. Can we meet before your DC trip?" Jasmine stared at the message, weighing her options. The discrimination angle could provide legal leverage against Nexus and their allies. But her priority remained protecting her company's technology and exposing the broader conspiracy. "Set up a meeting with Ms. Patel," she instructed her assistant. "And prepare the jet for Washington. It's time to turn defense into offense." 3 days after the flight incident, Jasmine Washington strode through Ronald Reagan Washington National Airport with purpose in every step. Gone was the casual traveler in jeans and a hoodie. Today, she wore a perfectly tailored navy suit, her natural hair styled in a sophisticated updo, projecting the image of the powerful CEO she was. The transformation wasn't just about appearance, it was strategic. After days of being portrayed in the media as a victim of discrimination, Jasmine was reclaiming the narrative. She wasn't just a black woman who'd had her seat stolen, she was a technological innovator whose breakthrough encryption system was crucial to national security. Flanking her were Xavier Thompson and 2 additional security team members, scanning the terminal with practiced vigilance. Behind them walked Maya Patel, now officially serving as Jasmine's legal counsel, and Richard Chen, still documenting the unfolding story. Their arrival had been widely publicized, a calculated risk designed to draw out the remaining conspirators. FBI agents in plainclothes were stationed throughout the terminal, while cybersecurity experts monitored digital communications for any suspicious activity. "Southeast exit clear," Xavier murmured into his communications device. Proceeding to baggage claim. As they approached the escalators, Jasmine noticed a man in a gray suit moving against the flow of travelers, angling to intercept their path. His face matched one of the photos Talia had flagged in their security briefing: Eric Daniels, former Nexus Technologies security specialist, now working as an independent contractor. "Contact at 2 o'clock, Jasmine said quietly to Xavier. "Gray suit, Nexus affiliate." Xavier gave an imperceptible nod, adjusting his position slightly to place himself between Jasmine and the approaching man. What happened next unfolded in seconds. Daniels reached inside his jacket. Xavier moved with lightning speed, tackling him to the ground. Airport security converged from all directions, while travelers scattered in panic. "Gun," someone shouted, though Daniels had actually been reaching for what appeared to be a specialized electronic device. Within moments, FBI agents had Daniels in custody, escorting him away as terminal operations returned to normal. Jasmine remained composed throughout, though her heart raced. Device secured, an agent confirmed. Preliminary analysis suggests it's a proximity hacker, designed to breach nearby electronic devices. Maya Patel looked shaken. "They tried to attack you in broad daylight, in a crowded airport. They're getting desperate," Jasmine observed. Which means we're getting closer. By the time they reached their hotel, news of the airport incident had already broken. Jasmine's phone was flooded with notifications, including an unexpected one, a significant drop in Nexus Technologies' stock price following an anonymous leak of internal communications. The leaked emails revealed Victor Hammond discussing plans to neutralize the Washington threat and ensure the right kind of leadership maintains control of critical security infrastructure. Though carefully worded to avoid explicit criminality, the racist and sexist undertones were unmistakable. Hammond's denying everything, Richard reported, scanning news updates. Claims the emails are fabricated. But 3 board members have already resigned, and major clients are distancing themselves. The court of public opinion moves faster than the justice system, Maya noted. In the hotel's secure conference room, Jasmine connected to a video call with her Oakland team. Talia's face appeared on screen, looking triumphant. "We've traced the money," she announced. "The shell company that paid Heather Reynolds. It leads back to a venture capital firm called Paradigm Investments." Hammond's primary backer, Jasmine recognized the name immediately. "Not just Hammond's," Talia continued. "They've invested in 5 major security firms, all led by white men, all competing against companies with diverse leadership for government contracts. They're trying to maintain the old guard's control of the security sector," Richard realized, furiously taking notes. "It goes deeper," Talia added. "We've identified similar patterns in discriminatory incidents targeting Rohan Mehta at Quantum Shield, Carmen Rodriguez at Cyberdefense Systems, and Wei Zhang at Neural Security. All minority-led companies, all breakthrough technologies, all subjected to random security incidents." Jasmine's phone rang, a secure line from the president's science advisor. "Ms. Washington," the advisor began without preamble, "we've reviewed the evidence your team and the FBI have compiled. The president has been briefed. This is now classified as a threat to critical infrastructure and national security. We need your encryption system protected at all costs." "I understand," Jasmine replied. "What about the larger conspiracy?" "Justice Department is preparing indictments," the advisor assured her. "But there's concern about market stability if too many major security firms are implicated simultaneously." After ending the call, Jasmine turned to her team with a determined expression. "They're worried about market stability," she translated. "Which means some players might get immunity to protect the industry's reputation." "That's outrageous," Maya protested. "After what they did." "It's politics," Jasmine said pragmatically. "But we have leverage." She thought back to her early days building Washington Security Solutions, when a competitor had falsely claimed her algorithms were plagiarized. Instead of suing, she had published her work openly, proving her innovation while establishing industry standards based on her technology. "We're going to shift the narrative again," she decided. "Richard, I'm giving you exclusive access to documentation showing how bias and discrimination were weaponized as security vulnerabilities. Maya, prepare a legal framework for a class action on behalf of all targeted executives." "And Nexus?" Xavier asked. "Let the market handle Hammond," Jasmine replied. "We focus on building something better." That evening, Jasmine declined multiple interview requests from major networks, choosing instead to publish a thoughtful essay on Tech Innovations Weekly's platform. Titled "Beyond Bias: Transforming Security Vulnerabilities into Strengths," the piece detailed how discrimination had been weaponized against minority executives while offering a new framework for industry reform. Rather than portraying herself as a victim, Jasmine positioned the incident as a wake-up call for the entire security sector. When bias becomes a vulnerability, addressing discrimination becomes a security imperative, not just a moral one, she wrote. The essay went viral overnight, shifting the conversation from individual incidents to systemic solutions. Industry leaders began pledging commitments to new security protocols that accounted for bias-based vulnerabilities. As dawn broke over Washington, D.C., Jasmine received news that Victor Hammond had been arrested for corporate espionage, wire fraud, and conspiracy. Simultaneously, her quantum encryption contract had been fast-tracked for government implementation. She thought about how far she'd come from that moment on the plane when a flight attendant had dismissed her rights based on appearance. The discrimination had been real, but it had also revealed vulnerabilities that could now be addressed, strengthening not just her company but the entire security ecosystem. Jasmine Washington had turned a stolen seat into a catalyst for transformation. 1 week after the airport confrontation, Jasmine sat in a secure room within the Pentagon, surrounded by military officials, FBI agents, and representatives from various intelligence agencies. The circular table gave no indication of hierarchy, a deliberate design choice for classified briefings where all input was considered equally valuable. "The conspiracy extends further than we initially suspected," announced FBI Director Caroline Mitchell, a steely woman in her 50s who had personally taken charge of the investigation. "What began as corporate espionage has revealed connections to foreign intelligence operations." A series of photographs appeared on the room's main screen: Victor Hammond in meetings with known foreign agents, Eric Daniels receiving packages from diplomatic couriers, executives from Paradigm Investments at private gatherings with individuals on watch lists. "We've uncovered evidence that at least 3 nations were funding attempts to compromise American cybersecurity infrastructure," Director Mitchell continued. "Their strategy was sophisticated. Identify and exploit social vulnerabilities to create technical ones. They used our own societal weaknesses against us," observed General Harrison, the Joint Chiefs representative. "Specifically targeting minority executives knowing they would face additional scrutiny and barriers." Jasmine studied the intelligence reports in front of her. "This explains the systematic nature of the incidents. It wasn't just about my company or the government contract, they were targeting diverse leadership across the entire security sector." "Precisely," confirmed Diana Rollins, the DOJ Cybersecurity Division agent who had first alerted Jasmine to the broader conspiracy. "We've documented 47 incidents across 12 companies in the past 18 months. All targeting minority executives with access to critical systems or innovations. The common denominator was Paradigm Investments," added Director Mitchell. "They used legitimate venture capital as cover for a sophisticated intelligence operation. By investing in companies led by white men while simultaneously undermining their diverse competitors, they created a self-reinforcing cycle of discrimination that served their strategic objectives." The implications were staggering. What Jasmine had experienced on that flight, having her assigned seat stolen and being dismissed by the flight attendant, was merely one small piece of a vast operation designed to maintain control over critical security infrastructure by exploiting societal bias. Hammond and his associates knew exactly what they were doing, Jasmine realized. They didn't just take advantage of existing discrimination, they actively weaponized it. "They counted on Heather Reynolds defaulting to believing the white man over me. And it would have worked," noted Agent Rollins, "if not for your security team's vigilance and your strategic response." After the briefing concluded, Jasmine was escorted to a smaller conference room where Maya Patel waited with documents spread across the table. "The airline has agreed to a comprehensive settlement," Maya informed her. "Beyond financial compensation, they're implementing mandatory bias training using your experience as a case study." "And Heather Reynolds?" Jasmine asked. "Suspended without pay pending the investigation," Maya replied. "The evidence suggests she was manipulated rather than knowingly complicit, but her actions still enabled the security breach." Jasmine nodded thoughtfully. Throughout this ordeal, she had struggled with her feelings about the flight attendant. Heather's bias had been real and harmful, but she had also been a pawn in a much larger game. "I'd like to meet with her," Jasmine decided. 2 days later, in a private room at Washington Security Solutions' D.C. office, Jasmine sat across from Heather Reynolds. The flight attendant looked diminished. Her uniform replaced by a simple blouse and slacks, dark circles under her eyes testifying to sleepless nights. "Thank you for agreeing to see me," Heather began, her voice unsteady. "I don't deserve your time, but I needed to apologize in person." "I appreciate that," Jasmine replied neutrally, studying the woman who had dismissed her so easily on the plane. "I've spent every day since the incident replaying what happened," Heather continued. examining my actions, my assumptions. She paused, gathering herself. The truth is ugly but simple. I saw a young black woman in casual clothes and a white man in a suit, and I automatically sided with him. I didn't even consider examining the evidence fairly. Why do you think that is? Jasmine asked quietly. Because that's how I was conditioned, Heather admitted, tears forming. I grew up in a small town where success looked a certain way, and it didn't look like you. I thought I was beyond that kind of thinking, but when pressure came, my biases surfaced. She wiped her eyes. I failed as a human being that day. You failed, Jasmine acknowledged, but so did the systems that allowed your bias to become a security vulnerability. Your mistake wasn't just about discrimination, it enabled what could have been a catastrophic breach of national security. Heather nodded miserably. I understand I've lost my career. I accept that consequence. Actually, Jasmine said, sliding a folder across the table, I have a different proposition. Washington Security Solutions is launching a new division focused on identifying and addressing human factor vulnerabilities in security systems. We need people who understand firsthand how bias operates in high-pressure situations. Heather stared at the folder in disbelief. You're offering me a job. I'm offering you an opportunity to transform your mistake into something constructive, Jasmine clarified. Your experience, both the failure and what you've learned from it, could help prevent similar vulnerabilities in the future. As Heather left the office, visibly shaken by the unexpected turn of events, Xavier approached with the latest security update. The government has expedited the implementation of your encryption system, he reported. And Hammond's replacement at Nexus has reached out about potential collaboration on industry standards. They need us now, Jasmine observed with a hint of irony. Nothing builds credibility like a $12 billion government contract. That evening, as Jasmine prepared for her keynote address at the National Cybersecurity Summit, she reflected on the journey from discrimination to vindication. The stolen seat that had seemed like a personal slight had uncovered a conspiracy that threatened national security. By responding strategically rather than reactively, she had not only protected her company but strengthened the entire security ecosystem. Her father's words from childhood echoed in her mind, in a world that will try to diminish you, your greatest power is turning obstacles into opportunities. That philosophy had guided her from Oakland's challenging neighborhoods to MIT's prestigious halls, through Silicon Valley's discriminatory venture capital landscape to building a multi-billion-dollar security empire. Each barrier had become a stepping stone, each act of discrimination transformed into fuel for innovation. As she took the stage before industry leaders, government officials, and media representatives, Jasmine Washington was no longer just the black woman whose seat had been stolen on a flight, she was the visionary whose response had uncovered and neutralized a threat to national security. Security vulnerabilities exist not just in our systems, but in our perceptions, she began her address. Today, I want to share how discrimination became a vector for attack, and how addressing bias isn't just about equality, but about protecting our most critical infrastructure. The journey that had begun with a stolen seat had transformed an industry. 6 months after the flight that changed everything, Jasmine Washington boarded another plane, same airline, same route from Atlanta to San Francisco. This time, however, the experience was dramatically different. Ms. Washington, welcome aboard, the lead flight attendant greeted her warmly at the jet bridge. We've upgraded you to our premium first-class suite. It's an honor to have you with us today. Jasmine smiled, noting the attendant's genuine respect, not the nervous deference that sometimes followed her now that her name and face were instantly recognizable. In the half-year since the incident, she had become more than a tech billionaire, she was a symbol of resilience and transformation. As she settled into her spacious window seat, Jasmine reflected on the whirlwind months behind her. Washington Security Solutions had successfully implemented its quantum encryption system across government agencies, its value soaring to $10 billion. The conspiracy led by Victor Hammond and Paradigm Investments had been fully exposed, resulting in multiple indictments and a complete restructuring of the cybersecurity industry's investment landscape. But perhaps the most significant change had come in the form of the Jasmine Washington Protocol, a new airline industry standard requiring comprehensive bias training and security protocols designed to prevent discrimination from becoming a security vulnerability. The flight attendant who had dismissed her 6 months ago was now helping develop those training materials as part of Washington Solutions' Human Factors Division. Jasmine opened her laptop, reviewing her presentation for the Global Technology Summit where she would be the keynote speaker. The title slide read, Transforming Vulnerabilities, How Discrimination Became the Catalyst for Security Innovation. Her mind drifted back to her childhood in Oakland, where her father, a community college computer science professor, had first taught her to code on a second-hand laptop. Remember, Jasmine, he would say, in this world, people will try to put obstacles in your path because of who you are. Your job isn't to avoid those obstacles but to transform them into your foundation. When she was 16 and the only black girl in an advanced programming competition, judges had accused her of cheating because her algorithm was too sophisticated. Rather than becoming discouraged, she documented her development process and used it to secure early admission to MIT. When venture capitalists had refused to fund her startup because they couldn't see someone like her as a tech CEO, she bootstrapped with smaller investors and proved them wrong with exponential growth. Each barrier had become a building block. Each act of discrimination had forced her to innovate in ways her privileged competitors never had to consider. The seat beside her remained empty until final boarding, when a white businessman in his 50s took it, nodding curtly to Jasmine before settling in. He looked vaguely familiar, perhaps one of the executives she'd encountered at industry events. When the flight attendant approached with champagne, the man automatically reached out, assuming the drink was for him. Actually, sir, the attendant said with a warm smile, this is for Ms. Washington. She's quite literally changed how we fly. The man turned to Jasmine with newfound recognition, extending his hand. James Whittaker, Quantum Dynamics. I should have recognized you immediately. Your encryption breakthrough was remarkable. Thank you, Jasmine replied simply, accepting both the handshake and the champagne. I've been following your work since the incident, Whittaker continued. Particularly impressive how you transformed a discriminatory experience into industry-wide reform. Necessity is the mother of innovation, Jasmine responded. Sometimes the greatest breakthroughs come from the most unexpected challenges. As the plane reached cruising altitude, Jasmine gazed out at the clouds below, thinking about the journey that had brought her here. The young girl from Oakland who had faced doubt and discrimination at every turn was now flying to address the world's top technology leaders about how diversity strengthens security rather than compromising it. Her phone chimed with a message from Maya Patel, first group of Jasmine Washington scholars selected, 15 young women of color receiving full scholarships to study cybersecurity. Announcement ready for your keynote. Jasmine smiled. The scholarship program had been funded by the airline settlement, transformed from compensation for discrimination into opportunity for the next generation. The cycle of transformation continued. When she landed in San Francisco, a crowd of young women waited at the arrival gate, computer science students from local universities, holding signs that read, "Thank you for changing the equation," and "Future security leaders." As Jasmine approached them, a young black girl no more than 12 years old stepped forward. "Ms. Washington," she said earnestly, "I started coding because of you. My teacher said I couldn't be good at both art and computer science, but you showed everyone that limitations are just opportunities in disguise." Jasmine knelt to meet the girl's eyes. "What's your name?" "Zora," the girl replied. "Well, Zora," Jasmine said, "remember this. The seat someone tries to take from you today might be the platform you stand on tomorrow." As she walked through the terminal toward the waiting car, Jasmine Washington carried with her not just the weight of her own success, but the responsibility of transformation, turning obstacles into opportunities, not just for herself, but for all those who would follow. The seat that had been stolen had become a catalyst for change that no one could have anticipated. Sometimes, the journey to justice begins with the smallest act of standing your ground, even if temporarily, you have to take a different seat. What would you have done in Jasmine's position? Would you have fought harder on the plane, or taken the strategic approach she did? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. And if this story resonated with you or someone you know who's faced discrimination and turned it into strength, please like, subscribe, and share this video. Remember, sometimes our greatest setbacks become our most powerful comebacks. Thank you for joining me for this incredible journey, and I'll see you in the next story of triumph over adversity. Jasmine Washington's journey teaches us that discrimination isn't just a personal injustice, it's a systemic vulnerability that can be exploited. When bias becomes weaponized, addressing it becomes not just a moral imperative but a security necessity. The story reminds us that our responses to discrimination define our path forward. Instead of letting bias defeat her, Jasmine transformed it into an opportunity for revolutionary change. We learn that sometimes victory comes not from immediate confrontation but strategic patience. By understanding the larger game, Jasmine turned a humiliating moment into industry-wide transformation. Her approach demonstrates that true leadership means converting obstacles into foundations for success. The story also reveals how discrimination often relies on predictable patterns that can be anticipated and countered. By recognizing these patterns, we can develop better systems and protocols that protect everyone. Finally, Jasmine shows us that the most powerful response to prejudice isn't just personal triumph, but creating pathways for others to follow, ensuring that future generations face fewer barriers and more opportunities.